Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Hugh Capital Podcast with yours truly, Jerlisa Juju Fontaine. You guys are so sick of me and my little spiels, but I'm going to do it again. I have somebody here with me today who I think is honestly very phenomenal. I think he's phenomenal for a couple of reasons, though. I think he's phenomenal not only because of what he does, and I'm going to over inform you all on what that means and what he actually does, but it was really cool being able to just like be online, be on IG, and just like follow his journey. Like, we have a lot of mutual friends, and between watching him on IG and just seeing everything that he's doing and all of his accomplishments and how young he was while pursuing it, for me was very motivational. It's like, bro, you're in your 20s. Like, you could just have fun, work your job, and call it a day. You don't have to do that much, right? But no, like, he sees a vision for himself, his family, and his legacy. And that's the reason why he's never stopped. In this case, you can say he already made it, but let's be realistic. People who made it don't stop making it. So the work is not done. With that being said, I have with me today Ramel Newerls, aka Young Mobile. Look at that smile. You get me? Yeah, the little Prince wave, all of that. And y'all know we're so extra on this podcast, but you're gonna love him. You'll see why. But I do want to inform you all on like just who he is and what he does. So bear with me because I can't have this podcast go without bragging for him because he might miss something. That's how accomplished he is. So, who's Ramel? He is a man of many hats. He is a successful commercial real estate investor. He's a credit coach, motivational speaker. Like I said, he motivates the hell out of me, so I know he'll do the same thing for you. He's also an executive producer. He has a movie. And I must say, he's also a family man. I think that even though we don't really get into people's business on this podcast, I do want to highlight how amazing it is to see a Black man love on his family. And it's not just showing them off to show them off. Like, you know him as a family dude who's about this money at the same time. That's huge. Have to give recognition for that. And come on, he's a New York City folk. Like, I'm from the Bronx, but he's from Brooklyn. That's lit too. I love Brooklyn people. Y'all my people. I didn't know in college that like Brooklyn and Bronx people had beef until I met people and it was like, "You're from the Bronx?" I was like, "Yeah, is that a problem?" They were like, "Yup." See, he's laughing because he knows. But it's all right though, because we got along and that's all that matters. So that's a little bit about him. I want you all to also know that he attended University of Albany, just like me. At the university, he majored in business management, minored in comms. You all are going to see why that really played a part because successful business, and he is a great communicator. So it worked out. Natural skills, but I'm sure a little bit of school helped, right? And the cool thing about him is when he was a student, he didn't only do college classes. Like, this is a young man who also self educated himself when it came to real estate, right? So he's been doing this since college, preparing himself mentally and intellectually to pursue this world. Very important to know. And when I think about it, like, what is the outcome of all of this, right? Well, one, he did land a role at PepsiCo and worked there for about 6 years while simultaneously building his business until finally becoming a full time entrepreneur, right? And let's get into the staple facts. Did I mention that at age 25, he received his first six-figure check with the acquisition and resale of a Brooklyn brownstone sold for $1.2 million? That's a big deal. I don't have to say that. Y'all know that's a big deal. Exactly. Since then, he has used his business earnings to pay off his student loan debt and has also helped over 1,000 millennials get into the 700 credit club. He has also acquired over 300 units and continues to build a strong portfolio of commercial real estate. Now, I know that was a lot, but y'all know I have to brag about these folks because they're too accomplished and they forget stuff. But not today, Satan, not today. So I'm done talking. He could talk about himself. Ramel, the show is yours. Help me fill in the gaps. Like, these are your achievements, these are your milestones, but walk me through the journey of a young Black man growing up in Brooklyn to even become the entrepreneur that he is today.
Wow. Oh man, Juju, you did amazing. I truly appreciate that introduction. I listen, you summed it up, but to go a little deeper, right? Like you said, I'm a great communicator and I love communicating and painting pictures. So me, I'm 30 years old now. I got a multi-million dollar real estate portfolio. I have a education company and a brand that's reaching thousands of people, right? But I'm sharing all that to say because if you would have asked me this 15 years ago, I would have never believed it. because I was running the streets, right? I was figuring out like everybody else. I was rapping. That was my first thing. So if you go on YouTube and type in, I'm not gonna say that, but you know, back in the day, I was rapping. That was my thing. I thought I was gonna make it out the hood rapping. I started playing ball. That didn't work neither. And then now I got into the streets, right? So that for me, it really motivated me because I seen that there was this consistent theme and gap where in our community, there's only three things that they tell you that you can do to succeed. It's either be a drug dealer, be a rapper, or be an athlete slash entertainer. And that's where entrepreneurship came in the way for me because I said, I want to do something different. I want to show some opportunities. You know, and that's truly why I go down this path of entrepreneurship. So welfare, food stamps, free lunch, you name it, that's where I come from. But my dad and my mom, I give them a lot of grace. I give them a lot of love because my mom, she was an entrepreneur, right? So she owned her own production company. I seen her drive through with the fancy cars and the custom-made Louis Vuitton outfits, and I didn't know exactly what she was doing at a young age, but I knew she was doing something. I said, I want to do that. But unfortunately, she passed away when I was 12 years old, of breast cancer. So that was something I always wanted to like live through her, right? Because I seen that she was an entrepreneur. So I had that dream of doing something great. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I had that dream. Now, on the other hand, my dad, he's a single father now. So you got to raise me and my brother. But he always told me never settle for a job because a job still just over broke. So I had entrepreneurship instilled in me very young. I still had to figure out my path because, you know, growing up in Brooklyn, you know, in New York City, period, Bronx, Brooklyn is the same jungle. So you still run into obstacles. But at the end of the day, I always knew I was going to be great. I just didn't know how I was going to get there. And I went to college, University of Albany. And this is like the real story, right? In UA. So I actually transferred from Paul Smith College, which was a school upstate New York. I went there first for a year, and then I transferred to Paul Smith College, and I was selling weed on campus. So I was good there, and then I came to UA, and I'm selling weed on UA campus. And literally the first month on campus, they caught us, right? But that was like a gift and a curse because if that did not happen, I wouldn't be here in front of you today, being able to tell my story. So when they arrested me on campus, I had to fight and dig my way back into school. And they ultimately put me on terminal probation. And they said, I don't want to see you back here in this office, right? And I'm going to kick you off campus. You got to get a house off campus. But that's when I said, okay, I'm going to take my second chance. Like, it was my opportunity. And I went on YouTube and I started typing in like things to do. And I seen on the notifications on the side, it said 3-time felon turned real estate mogul. So I clicked the video and then he was teaching about like real estate and all this stuff. So I paid for an online course while I was in college. So all my friends looking at me crazy, like, bro, you already paying for education there. But I said, no, it's not going to stop there. And, you know, that's why I'm here today because I invested in myself, you know, that early, you know, junior in college. I said, I want to make sure I build wealth in real estate.
I actually love that. And I love how what you kind of ended off with actually segues into my next question. So first things first, I love how even though I was able to brag about you so much, you did a great job bragging about yourself in a very fruitful and healthy way. And that just, I think that goes to show just how great he is at communication, right? I think that for a lot of us, we have a hard time talking about ourselves and our achievements and why we do what we do. And we always think that talking about these things means that we're bragging. It is not. You literally draw people into you, whether it's for friendship, booze, professionalism, etc., based on what people know about you, what they see in you. And you should always be talking about yourself. Let people know what your goals are, what your beliefs are, what you stand on, what you feel for, what makes you happy, what drives you. Like, those are things that are very important to communicate because it will help you attract the right people that you want in your life. So please, y'all, after hearing him and other people who have been on my podcast, brag about yourself. Tell people about your milestones and your achievements. Let them know your struggles. Let them know what you have encountered growing up, and let them know your story. And you know, you might have the right people around you. So shout out to you for that, Ramel. What you did start with that I want to segue into is I'm really big on mentorship. And I think that oftentimes mentorship is what kicks off our careers in a very fruitful way. You mentioned about going online, signing up for Jay Morrison's course, and that kind of pivoting your career. I want you to elaborate on why you chose him over something or someone else and how you maximized on that relationship to get to where you are. how do we use mentorship to our advantage in a positive way?
Absolutely. So I love a lot of things that you said. And it's two things that I want to highlight, right? It's communication and mentorship, right? Communication is so important because if I didn't see Jay Morrison online communicating the things that he's been able to do, then I wouldn't have been inspired, right? So I was inspired because of the representation. Again, we come from a neighborhood where we don't see Black people successful in any other industry besides being an athlete, entertainer, or being in the streets, right? So that was the first time that I seen somebody that I felt looked like me, had a story just like me, that was making money top tier in a different industry like real estate that anybody could do, right? He was a felon, dropped out of high school, got arrested. I'm like, damn, if he could do that, and I'm in college, I got a way better upbringing. I know I can do it, right? So
Yes.
mentorship is so important. But I invested, and at that time, it was just online videos, right? You didn't get one-on-one interaction. It was just, yo, this is the videos pre-recorded, and you gotta watch it, right? So this is where your discipline kicks in at. And I remember, a part of the modules, he would teach branding, right? That's why I'm so big on my brand. I'm so big on communication because he would teach how important it is to represent yourself a certain way because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So that's part of your brand. So when we communicate, I want to let people know how much I care because that at that point they're gonna say, all right, let me see what this guy is talking about, right? So I remember on college, on campus, on Fridays I used to wear a suit, right? And I used to walk on campus with the suit on, and like, oh my God, laughing on me, like, yo, it's hot as hell out here. What you doing? But I knew where I was going. At that point, I said, I'm the young mogul, and I got to dress for the direction that I'm headed. So that was one thing I learned in mentorship. The other thing that I did learn in mentorship was duplication. So part of that mentorship, when you sign up, you get one call, right? So I said, hey, can you tell me about any blind spots, right? If you could go back and do it all over again, any blind spots that you may want to let me know so I can actually get around it. And he said, you want to focus on duplication, right? Because you can't get to that goal by yourself. A lot of us start and we want to do it all alone, but are you trying to get to 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, 100 million? You're not going to get there by yourself. So start now, figure out a way to duplicate yourself. So that's truly why I started my own mentorship, right? Because I fell into a trap where I was buying real estate, I was making money, but then I needed somebody else to actually go on the appointments. I needed somebody else to actually answer the phone. I needed an accountant. I needed different people in my team. I was doing everything. Right. And then I started to look around my circle and nobody was motivated like me. Nobody wanted to do the things that I was doing. So then I said, okay, what if I start a mentorship? I can teach, train, and mentor other people on how to do the exact same thing. And these people want it because they're investing. And now I can bring them on my team. And now my team is consistent of my mentees. I teach, train them, develop them, and now we actually partner and we buy facilities together. We buy apartment buildings together. So mentorship is just so important because if we don't see it, we don't believe it.
Yes.
We don't believe it. And then you want to have a shortcut. So I say this, right? And I said this on a podcast before, and it went viral, but I was saying that I feel that mentorship is a scam. Mentors part, right? Because if I worked 8 years, 9 years, I lost money, I had headaches up all night, and I'm able to give that to you for a fraction of what it took for me to get there, is a win, right? It's like a GPS. You could actually, when you get in a car and you want to go to your destination, you just punch in the address and it tells you the direction. It can even tell you where there's traffic. It can tell you where there's police, right? Well, your mentor is going to tell you, don't go over there because that's a pit stop. Go this way, backtrack, right? And help you get to a goal faster. Like that's truly what I'm about. How could I become more effective in less time?
I love how you mentioned that because I think that people do sleep on that, right? Like the reason why mentorship is so valuable is because of the concept of paying it forward, right? Like he says it's a scam, but clearly he cares about it enough to still do it, right? So it ain't that much of a scam because he still loves doing it and it works. People's lives are being saved. And I think it's so valuable because once again, like thinking future forward, if we want to see innovation in certain industries, if we want to see people better their lives, right? The reality is we have to educate people about our learnings and what we've encountered to help them experience new things on their own, but to also be able to feel the feels of new things, go through different types of failures than your mentor went through, and they can educate on that because failures from the past don't need to be repeated as industries evolve, but you will still fail in other ways. And you can sometimes even teach your mentor about failures that you never even spoke about, right? Like you could say, mentor, you have taught me about A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but did you know because of this new real estate policy or law or whatever the case may be, we can't do or we can do or etc. Now your mentor is also benefiting from that because you are using your new learnings and you're helping that person understand like this is what the new world looks like, and that helps their business too. So I think that even though he was able to help us understand the structure of his form of mentorship, I think it's very important to remember how valuable you can be as a mentee. What value can I add to you? Is my value working on your team? Is my value just learning from you? Or is my value executing on what you teach me and then going back to you and reporting on what I learned? So it's twofold. It's mentoring and it's being a mentee as a very productive mentee. Am I wrong, Ramel?
You're right, 100% right.
Thank you. I try my
I've been
best.
on both sides of it. So like even with my mentor, like I started in real estate, but all the credit strategies and credit plays that we do, he knew nothing about it. He's like, yo, what's that? A bank, you can go get 50,000. I ain't know that because back in the day they wasn't giving out money to people,
That's
right?
right.
So I'm able to bring that game and be able to add value. But also I've had mentees that came to me, they teaching me this new AI stuff. I'm like, all right, I want
Yep.
to learn about AI. And they show me how, oh, you can leverage AI to go get business credit and now make my process even faster. So it goes both ways.
And the good thing is, y'all, he's mentioning keywords that we're going to get to. We're going to talk about business credit and loans and how to get into real estate. But really quickly, I want to do like a little fact check, a little educational moment. You chose commercial real estate. The real estate industry is so broad, but you chose that. Can you help our audience understand what are the different roles or different areas of real estate? And then help us understand why you chose commercial real estate.
Great question. So you have residential and you have commercial, right? So residential is anything where you actually live, right? So residential could be a single family all the way up to a four family, right? That's residential. So typically is wherever you live. Commercial is typically where you do business out of, right? So you may have an office space. You may have a retail. So retail would be like the NBA stadium or NFL stadium. You may have recreation, like a golf course, right? You have industrial, which is self-storage. That's what I love, self-storage, and we'll break that down. But kind of to get the difference, residential is more so from where you live, and commercial is where you actually do business out of. Now, I actually started out in residential. So my very first deal was a two-family in residential. I did residential for 7 years. I still do residential to some, but I'm more so in commercial heavier now. But it wasn't until 2020, right? So I made six figures my very first deal, $157,000. And I want to break that down a little bit further because I know people hear, oh, $157,000, how did you do it? So I want to break it down a little bit and kind of give you that roadmap of how I even got to commercial and why I love it over residential, right? So when I got started in residential, there was a two-family brownstone that I got in the contract. The family that was going through a pre-foreclosure. So that means that they was behind their rent. Bank was threatening to take the property back from them. I got the property in the contract for $590,000. I didn't have no money. Like I was fresh out of college. I had a job working at Pepsi making $50,000 a year. So I didn't even qualify for a mortgage, right? However, I didn't quit. And that's one of the things that, you can never fail if you don't quit. So I went to over 50 real estate meetups. I would go on Eventbrite. So you could type in real estate meetups in your area. And I went to over 50 meetups and I ended up coming across a broker. And she's an older lady, but she seen something in me. And she said she wanted to help me out because she just felt my energy, my passion, my desire. So she ended up connecting me to another person that she knew, which is an investor. And he put up the entire $590,000 for me. I put no money out of my pocket. And we put that property back on the market sort of for $1.2 million, right? Now, I used none of my own money. When I teach no money down strategies, people think it's not real, but this is my real life. I'm living proof. But I'm sharing that because once I got the money, I was the man. Like in my eyes, I'm lit, 25. Nobody in my family ever made this type of money at once. And I started speeding. I'm buying all these properties. I'm just buying them. And then I had $1 million portfolio by the time I was 28. But in 2020, the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
So when the pandemic happened, a lot of my tenants stopped paying their rent, and I couldn't evict them due to monetary reasons because we had the eviction ban. And I bought in low-income areas because I wanted to get the better bang for my buck. So I got to the other side of real estate that most people don't talk about, which is Yes, you can win, but you could also lose, right? If you don't have the right strategies. However, like, I'm strapped now because I'm paying the mortgage, taxes, maintenance, but I'm not getting the cash flow, so I'm debt heavy. So I had to think on my feet, and I started to sell a lot of my properties just to get some cash back in my pocket. This one property in particular, I had a tenant in there, and he wasn't paying me, so I offered him cash for keys. I said, I'm gonna give you $2,000. You just leave. I don't care if you owe me. I just want you out, because I had a buyer who was willing to pay me $20,000 more than what I was asking for. So I gave him the cash for keys. He agreed, but he said, hey, I need you to put my items in the storage unit just until I can get a little transition. I need it for about 90 days. I said, bet, let's do it, right? Then we started looking for storage units. Everything was sold out in the area, right? We looked all across the entire zip code, right? Even start stretching out across the county, and nothing was available. And that's when I said, okay, something is going on. I need to be in this industry, right? So I'm in residential. I got all this money tied up into it. I sold my property. From the money that I made of that property, I paid $25,000 to join a new mentorship to learn about self-storage. So I didn't jump into self-storage just because I wanted to do it. I said, I see this. How could I find somebody else to take me to that destination faster? So I paid $25,000 to join a new mentorship. And in that mentorship, I learned the strategies, and I purchased my first self-storage facility. And now we got over 300 units with another 240 under contract, right? When I rent out a unit, if somebody leaves, all I have to do is just clean it up, cost me $100, $200, versus with a residential apartment, I have to redo the kitchen, redo the bathroom. It may cost you $10,000, $15,000 to renovate a unit to get it re-rented out. So it was more so just me working smarter, having less headache. It's still a business, it's things that come with it. But when I look at residential and commercial, I can make way more money, and I don't have to deal with as much headaches. My profit margin is much higher. So that is how it works, and that's the difference between the two.
You are such a great storyteller, because once again, every follow-up question I have, you seem to somehow answer it. But I do want to highlight two things.
Yes.
First big thing, COVID put a lot of people out of business. It is really hard to transition during that time. A lot of people realize they're losing a lot of money, and if I don't get out of this business fast, I am done for. I think very important to highlight for everybody listening is sometimes your pivot isn't even within the same lane of what you've been doing. Sometimes the pivot is going into something either slightly or completely different to save yourself. And that thing may not even be a temporary solve. It just might become a permanent one, because as of right now, this self-storage business, it's permanent, right? Like, it's not changing yet. Right now, it's a permanent business and it works. That's the first thing I want to highlight for everybody listening. The second thing I want to highlight for everybody listening is, once again, I started this interview asking about mentorship. Once again, it is indeed a scam. That 8 years of experience becomes somebody's 1 year, right? And look at that. He paid us 25 grand. A lot of you are listening and saying, oh my God, like 25 grand. But think about the turnaround for him, right? Like, he was able to take that information, take that knowledge. And I don't want to use the word instantly loosely, but it took a decent amount of time for him to take that knowledge, replicate it, and create his own business. And that's saved him, right? Like, he could have been in the dirt from residential, but he realized, no, if I do this commercial investment and business, this is going to save me and my family and continue to let me build my legacy as an entrepreneur. So two things I had to highlight from everything that he just said. Once again, you now understand that there's two different lanes in real estate. It's commercial, it's residential. And then really quickly, before I change topics slightly, this is concept of wholesaling. Can you explain what wholesaling is for me, please?
Yes. So I love wholesaling. So wholesaling is basically you being the middleman or woman in between a real estate transaction, right? So there's trillions of dollars in real estate that's being sold and purchased every day. All you got to get is a fraction of that, right? A 0.5%, right? But what I'll do is I'll reach out to somebody like you, say, hey, Juju, you looking to buy real estate? Tell me what you're looking to buy. You want to buy 2 families, 3 families? What's your price point? What zip code? I want to find a buyer and find out exactly what they're looking for. So now I know you're looking for 2 families in this zip code at this price point. Now I go and I actually find motivated sellers. So somebody that owns a property in New York, but they may live in Florida. If you live in Florida, 9 out of 10, that property is not being managed efficiently because you're not there. So I want to go and target absentee owners. I can go target people that's in pre-foreclosure, right? I can go target people where if the grass is high when I'm driving by, or if there's no blinds in the window, then probably that property is being abandoned. Some type of situation is going on. I can go target people that have high water bills. 9 out of 10, you're going through distress situations, right? So I find somebody to have a distress situation, and I see you want to sell your 2-family property. It's in the same neighborhood that Juju likes to buy in, and it's at the same price point. Well, I can offer you $100,000 for it, right? Get it under contract, and then bring it to you for $120,000. And all I'm doing is selling you that contract. I'm not selling the property. I'm just selling you the rights to take over this contract, and you're paying me $20,000 to do so. I make money in between. I connect the buyer and the seller, and I keep moving.
Love that. And the reason why I asked that question is because I'm just really adamant about making sure that people have a clear picture on the different opportunities that exist in different industries. And I feel like if you are somebody who just doesn't want to be responsible for the day-to-day life of being someone who is literally involved in real estate, in terms of ownership, maybe wholesaling is for you. Like maybe that's a different route for you to get involved in, or maybe it's your start. It could be different for everybody.
So
And speaking of
wholesaling,
start,
I'm going to add this. Sorry, I just want to add this, right? Wholesaling should be the start to everyone's business model in real estate. So I still do wholesaling right now. I day in and day out have a full team of cold callers. We reach out to people, but when the deals come in, we now have the control to say, do I want to buy it first? Do I want to wholesale it? Do I want to fix and flip it? Do I want to raise the money? But we now have the leads first. We can figure out which path you want to take. So as a wholesaler, you actually win because you control the deal. And people have money. It's a bunch of people that have money out here, but it's not people that have real estate. So if you have the real estate, the money's going to come. So I would encourage anybody to start. Wholesaling is really where you want to be, and then obviously you build from there.
Look at that, y'all. See, we're in sync. And speaking of start, very soon we are going to have a conversation about how to officially get your start. If you all have been listening, Ramel has been giving you guys little drops and needles of how he got his start and slightly also how you can get your start. But we're going to dive very specifically into like credit, loans, and etc. for that. But before we get to that topic, I do want to touch on something really quickly because I want people to have a full understanding of the benefits of being an entrepreneur in this space. So Ramel, just kind of, and you kind of said a couple of things already, but just like walk us through like the different ways that someone in your position can make money.
Oh man, it's so many ways you can make money. I'll go on it. I'll be here for a day, but I'm gonna break it down because I want to give your audience this type of game, right? So number one, you want to actually find and learn a high income skill. Because once you learn and master a high income skill, you're going to make money in that skill. So, for example, with self-storage, I'll use that. The reason why I love self-storage, not only because it's less management, you make more money, but I also create multiple streams of income out of that one acquisition. So now when I rent out the units, not only do I make money by renting out the units, I also partner with the local moving company in the area because the tenants that come in, they are 9 out of 10 going to need to utilize moving services. Well, I'm going to partner with them where I'm going to refer all my business to the local moving company, and now they give me 30% commission, right? I also partner with you all where they provide all the transportation. So when you rent out a unit, you need movers, you need to get a truck. Well, you all runs the transportation business out of the facility, and guess what? They give me 30% commission, right? So these are the things that we do. We create multiple streams of income out of our facility. But once you master it, now you make money by educating people online. So that's an entirely new thing. And if somebody everybody needs to have a digital product, right? Because it's no inventory. So if you have a clothing store, if you have any type of physical products, it can run out at some point. But if I create an ebook, if I create an online course teaching you exactly what I've done in real life, you can buy as many ebooks and courses as possible. It's unlimited because there's no inventory to it, right? So you make money multiple streams in the storage facility that way, but I can also create an online ebook, create a course, do consultations, do events, and you're impacting people as well, right? That's the biggest thing. We provide impact, but we're able to make money. So that's like, I gave 7 different ways right there that you can make money. But first, again, I have to make it very clear. You need to find and master a high income skill, because if you don't do that, why would people pay you to even learn it and you haven't actually seen success out of it? So that's what you want to do first. Yep.
That was a great answer. Like I said, for any of you who are listening and you feel like, okay, commercial real estate, residential real estate sounds cool. Okay, self-storage units. Okay, that sounds cool. But now you're also learning that like your business doesn't end with that. It ends with your personal brand and how you can also help people, teach people, educate people from everything that you've experienced and everything that you've learned. And some of that game is free, but most of it you charge for. And you shouldn't feel guilty about that because in reality, you are a teacher, you are an educator, and teachers and educators get paid. I wish they got paid more because I feel like they are the ones who are preparing us to be future leaders. But don't feel guilty to charge for information that you know is going to ultimately transform someone's life. That
Yeah.
should be a part of your income. And to his point, whether your skill is building a successful podcast, whether that skill is real estate, whether that skill is being a really good engineer, being really great at building websites, whatever it is for you, teach people. And
Yeah.
that could be an additional income. And brand yourself, become a great communicator. Do not, when you leave this interview, do not forget about how important branding and communication is, because we can see how much of an impact having those skills have had on Ramel and his personal growth and his professional growth. So I had to
Absolutely.
highlight that real quick. Boom. All right, to the spicy stuff. So now that you all understand how you can make money, how to break into the space, etc., let's get into the nitty gritty. To my knowledge, or Ramel, correct me if I'm wrong, there are so many different ways that you can get your first property, whether it be residential or commercial. We're talking credit, we're talking loans, we're talking life insurance. There's so much. I'm not going to explain to you all what it is because I only know so much. Our expert is. So,
Yeah.
Ramel, help us understand what are the different resources to get your first property? That's one. Two, if it differs for residential versus commercial, also give us some insight into that because I think that might help people figure out which lane they're going to choose.
Got it. So it's no excuse. I just got to start with that because a lot of people hold themselves back because they see this big storage facility or this big apartment building and they think that is way out of their league, and it's really not. Right? There's so many ways you can start with wholesaling. That's the easiest way where you don't use any of your money or your credit. But when you do wholesaling, you get the property in the contract. You can actually bring in a partner like I did and now leverage that partnership to get equity in the deal and still make money. Right? If you don't want to do it that way, you can do the traditional route, which is get finances. So I'll break down residential and commercial. So from a residential standpoint, you have programs like NACA, right? Neighborhoods of America Corporation Assistance Program, where you can buy your first property up to a 4-family, and they cover all the closing costs, everything, down payment. You just have to join their program, be a member, and go through the qualification process, right? You also have FHA, where you put 3.5% down on a 1 to 4 unit. So our house hack, like right now, like I got a nice house, but it's a 2-family, right? But I did that because I said I want to live for free. Why would I go and I could go buy the big house with, the big, which I'm about to do that now. But before, when I first started out, hey, I said I want to be smart. So go buy the 2-family, live in it, but rent out the other side, and now you live for free. So you could do that, leveraging the FHA. That's on the residential side. Now on the commercial side, we buy self-storage facilities leveraging what we call the SBA 7A loan. So the Small Business Administration. When you think about COVID, PPP loans, EIDL loans, everybody got that from the SBA. SBA been around since 1953. The SBA 7A loan is specifically designed for small business purchases. So the reason why self-storage qualifies is because you're not only buying real estate, you're buying a small business, right? Because you're operating a business out of it, and they'll finance you up to 90%. So if you find a facility online, like you could go to bizbuysell.com. So for everybody that's listening in, you want to go to bizbuysell.com. That's a business brokerage website where you have business owners that's tired. They've been in the game 20, 30 years and they're just ready to sell their business. So you go there and you could actually get with a business broker and they'll help you find storage facility that you could buy, right, for cheap. Let's say you find a facility for $750,000. That was my first facility. I paid $750,000 for it. So I'll use that as an example. 10% down, $75,000, right? So $75,000, like, damn, how do I come up with $75,000? Well, now that's what we teach, creative strategies. So you can actually go and get different lines of credit and credit cards and use the credit card as your down payment. So for example, Chase is the Chase Business Inc. You go and you can apply, they give you up to $150,000 on one credit card. and they'll also give you a line of credit. Key Bank is the same way, business credit card and a line of credit with one inquiry, right? And we teach this in full detail, but let's just say you go to Chase, you go to Fulton Bank, and you go to Citizens Bank, each of them give you $25,000, 0% interest for 12 to 18 months. You now use those credit cards to pull the money off, down payment on this facility. You now own a facility, $750,000. Yeah, you use it off the credit cards, but guess what? The type of credit cards that we go for, we like to find cashback, sign-on bonuses that we could actually utilize. So when I go and utilize these credit cards, so for example, Chase, when you spend $15,000 or more in the first 90 days, they give you a $750 bonus. So now that money, that $750 that I get from Chase just from using the money, I put it right back to cover my minimum payments for the first couple of months while I'm getting the facility up and running and implementing all the different strategies. Fulton Bank does the same thing. They give you $1,500 bonus. So now we creatively use the money against them, right? Yep. That's one. I'm gonna give you another one, and we're gonna dig deep because this is when I get excited right here. I start talking. You know, so the next thing is life insurance. And in our community, it's like taboo. We don't want to talk about life insurance because, oh, it's when I die, you know, but real wealthy people use life insurance for their life, not for their death. It's called life insurance for a reason because you use it for your life. So you want to set up a properly designed IUL. So IUL is Index Universal Life Insurance Policy, which you have cash value that accrues over time, right? Up to 10% in interest. But what happens is this. So I'm gonna give you this exact example, right? So every single year, I have what I call a family legacy meeting. So I bring my cousins, my brothers, my aunts, my sister, everybody, bring them in one room, and then we collectively look at who has the best credit profile. We make sure everybody has their LLC. We also do a family susu. So each person gets $200 every single month, and then we get the pot. We use it wisely to help somebody's financial development, right? So this particular time in 2019, when I had my first family legacy meeting, I pulled up my cousin's credit report. He had an 800 credit score and didn't even know it. Like, he never knew it because he just works, he pays his bills, he's a responsible person. But at that same time, I found a single family deal that we was looking to go buy, and all I had to do was come to the table with $8,000 because I only had to come to the table with like 10%, right? So $8,000. I got him approved for a Chase credit card. I put him on my business. I got him approved for a Chase credit card, $45,000 in 24 hours, right? So put him on my business, $45,000 with Chase. We got to put $8,000 down to buy this property. Well, I say, yo, cuz, let's pull the $8,000 off that Chase credit card. Let's go buy this property. Now you're being invested with me, and I'll give you a return on your money. But it's really not any money that's coming out of your pocket right now because it's coming off a credit card. So not only did we pull off the $8,000, I had to pull off an additional $30,000 to start the construction. Because when we buy and rehab single family properties, the lender that we work with requires you to put the money up first, and when it's done, they give it to you back. So it took $30,000, so $38,000 off the card. When I took $38,000 off the card, I got a $750 bonus, like I just talked about. So that $750 bonus we used to pay the credit card minimum payment for the first 3 months. So no money out of our pocket, right? Nice. That same property, we end up selling it and making $120,000 profit. No money out of our pocket. So I end up paying back his credit card, gave him $20,000. We had $80,000 cash profit back to my pocket, and I didn't use any of my own money. Literally. That $80,000 I now put into a cash value life insurance policy at that time. That money actually grew, where now I have 3 self-storage facilities under contract. I just said 240 units under contract. It now grew to $147,000 a couple of years later. Borrow against that. Now, my plan right now is to borrow against that policy to use as the down payment on these 3 facilities. But when I do that, the money is still growing in my insurance policy. So it's as if I never even took it out. Yes. So once I buy these facilities, we bring the income in, pay back the policy, and just keep doing it over and over again. So it's no shortage of way. I know I gave out a lot, and I want to unpack it a little bit more, but It's no shortage of ways to get started. For anybody that's listening to this podcast, I want to encourage you to know you can do it. It really starts in between your ears. That's really where it starts.
You body that. I have to highlight a couple of things.
Mm.
One, yes, we spoke about credit, we spoke about loans, we spoke about life insurance. I think that the life insurance part is so unique for two reasons. One, to your point, very taboo topic in our community, and it's so cool because to your point, you don't just use it for death, you use it for life, right? If there is a certain endeavor that you are pursuing and your life insurance can be used and maximized to get there, you can do that. You don't have to wait till you die and a family member uses that money to continue your legacy. You can build that legacy now with
Yeah.
that life insurance money. First thing that I thought was very huge. Secondly, family is so important. Family is important, yes, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, but think about how big of a deal it is to bring your family together and think through ways to be financially set as a unit. Both you and your cousin made money through that transaction.
Yeah.
Why? Because you bring everybody together to properly plan to have the right credit, which is necessary to get those credit cards. Because trust me, I know he's not lying, y'all. Good credit gets you the things you're looking for. I am indeed a part of the 700 credit club. And I indeed also have that Chase Business Inc. card. And my line is 55K. And I use that for my business. So I don't have it for real estate yet. It's a plan of mine for the near future, but I know I have that. And I've learned that from people like Ramel who are getting on the internet and giving us a lot of free game. So once again, they're not charging for everything. They're giving so much free game. They just charge for the specifics. And I think that's a very fair and reasonable ask because I'm even able to make small transactions and milestones and achievements towards a grander goal just by hearing content like this. So I promise you he's telling the truth because I did it and it worked.
Yeah.
But back to the family part once again, y'all. If you have family that believes in you and supports you and your vision, bring them together and think about ways to better their lives so that you all can make smart financial decisions together because that could not have been done without family. We love our friends, but sometimes you can't do everything and anything with friends. I think that sometimes a certain level of accountability exists with your family members when they trust you, and you can make big moves like that. And if you're lucky, maybe your friends too. But we can start with family as a topic because that was Ramel's truth. Um, so I wanted to highlight that. Ramel, is there anything else about that topic that you want to include?
Yeah, I get a lot of pushback when people will be like, yo, my family is this and my family don't care about
Mm-hmm.
that. And my family's the same way. Like I'm no different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn, we
Mm-hmm.
all from poverty and we all are oppressed. Like all these things, we all come from it. So I'm no
Right.
different. The only difference is I went out there and I showed and
Yes.
proved in order for my family to even believe me enough to sit down with me. That was
Yes.
the difference. So I encourage everybody, you have to bet on yourself. You got to
Yes.
go out there. So it's a 3-step formula, right? Number one is information. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be the expert. Go out there, invest, learn, and master the information. Once you do that, now you have to have integrity. So
Yes.
information and integrity, which is you now being a man or woman of your word, because you have the information, do something with it. So many people get information and they don't do anything with it. And it's crazy that it's a stat inside of the education world where only 7% of the people that buy courses and mentorships actually see success.
That's
And the
true.
reason why is because most people get the information and then they just get analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
They get stuck. They don't even believe in it. Then they see the roadmap. So you got to push through. So
Yeah.
once you do that, your family's going to notice. My family noticed when I started to go to masterminds and I'm at
Yes.
different events and they see me buying properties. They like, oh, Sweat, what you doing? So it's a different conversation for me to bring them to the table and they believe and trust in me. So information, integrity, and the last thing is going to be impact, right? So how could you provide impact to them? My cousin, he just didn't get the money without me showing him, hey, this is how much money you're going to make. This is the value that I can bring to you. Most people trying to bring people together and you haven't even started yourself. You don't know how you want to add value to them. You don't even have a real plan. And you don't have integrity. Like you don't even show up on time. You're not even doing what you're supposed to do. So how are you gonna
Mm-hmm.
follow through? So that's right there I want to share. And then one more piece, right? As far as information, like you go on my Instagram, you go on my YouTube, I'll give out everything for free. I don't
Yes.
hold back. It's nothing I just go back and be like, oh, I'm not giving this out. I give everything out. What I charge for is my time because my
Yes.
time is valuable. So when you want mentorship with me, it's like time. But information, you could just take it from the grandma on YouTube, because I truly want people to win. You know, I have this superhero slogan, and it's like when we come from the hood, we always be like, I gotta go get it. I'm gonna go get it, go get it. And I had to shift my mindset. I'm saying, I'm not a go getter, I'm a go giver. My job is to give. Nobody's gonna outgive me. If I give the most, I'm gonna receive the most. God is gonna bless me as long as I give the most. And that has been happening in my life.
I hate him. I literally have 2 questions left.
Yeah.
Very short ones. I
Yeah.
swear my next question was how to give back to your community and what mindset is associated with that thing. I'm so tired of you, but I love it. I love that you are so prepared to inspire, to inform, and to help other people achieve that you're just like answering all my questions. I'm not mad at it. It's fine. You know, we're near time. So with that being said, Ramel, thank you so much for everything. I have one final question for you, but for everybody listening, so much to unpack here, right? Remember how mentorship is important. Where you come from matters. Your family structure matters. Bringing your family together to improve each other mentally, emotionally, financially, etc. You guys are going to butt heads. That is family, but look out for one another because that is your legacy. If you have quality friendships and you want to go that route and build with them too, make it happen. We have seen success stories of people partnering with their friends to bring visions to life and financially benefit from it. We spoke about how to start in this real estate game, right? Whether it's commercial, whether it's residential, whether it's wholesaling. We mentioned you have not, maybe I'm abusing by saying have to, but you kind of did say that, like start with wholesaling, like make it happen. We spoke about the different ways to get things started: credit, life insurance, loans, etc., free money, right? In exchange for your time. So there's so many ways to get started in this business, in this industry. Don't experience what Ramel said, which is analysis paralysis. Take all this information in and do nothing with it. We want to see everybody who's listening win. And the only way to do that is by executing on what you're learning on this podcast, through his IG, through his YouTube, and hopefully potentially through his mentorship program, where maybe you get the chance to work with him. So just please remember that if you're listening to me say these things now and you didn't grasp those things that I just mentioned, hit that rewind button and just start going back to listening to these particular things. In the description, you guys are going to see sections where it's like telling you at different timestamps where we touch on certain topics. Take advantage of it. If you forgot something or missed something, go to that timestamp and listen. And with that being said, I talked too much. Ramel, my last question for you. Are you ready?
Talk to me.
The question is, what does the future of real estate look like?
That's a really good question. Real estate is not going anywhere, right? Real estate is everything that's around us. You think about the gym you go to, the school you go to, the workplace you are, the highway you drive on. Real estate is not going anywhere, and God is not making any more land. Right now, interest rates are at all-time highs, so property values are dropping and things like that. But this is just crazy. I was at this mastermind, right? And I was the only Black person in this mastermind. And that's why I'd be so inspired to give out the game to my people, because we not in these rooms, right?
Yeah.
But this is the biggest wealth transfer that we have ever seen, right? And there's going to be a lot of people that lose out during this time that be in a worse position than they started. But there's also going to be so many people that come out on top as multi-millionaires. So this is the time, if you've been on the fence, this is the time for you to get the information, go get the capital and invest while it's low, because you can get things for cheap. You can partner with lenders and find out what's on the foreclosure list. You can actually partner with brokers and find out who's actually looking to sell off market. This is the time to get in the game, buy cheap now. Yes, interest rates are going to be a little higher, but in a couple years, 4 or 5 years from now, it's going to correct itself. And that's where you're going to see that big wealth. The wealthy people was cool with dropping a couple million, a couple 100,000 and sitting on it, knowing that, okay, I'm taking the bleeding right now, but in a couple years, I already know what's going to happen, and my entire last name is going to change off of a few moves that we've been able to make during this time. So the future of real estate is buy now and wait a couple years, and your family last name is going to be different. It's a fact.
I love that. Ramel, thank you so much for your time. You gave us such fruitful content. For everybody, please look in the description below. You'll see information as to where his YouTube page is, his IG, all those great things. And I hope you all enjoyed as much as I did. Don't forget the other episode where we talk about productivity hacks. He has some quick tips for you all. So hurry there and listen up. Thank you, everyone.